Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough with variable wins for Rookie Division and the Savannah Tournament here in Golf Clash. The game video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, and before we start, make sure that you do hit the thumbs up button, also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. You can get the ultimate tournament guides for patreon.com/golfclashtommy, and the divisions that we do offer is a Pro, Expert and Master. Check out through the link directly in the description down below. You can follow the info box on the right hand side to get the club distance adjustment, elevation adjustment, also what ball and club type I do suggest you to play with. Have in mind that these are all suggestions, you don't have to follow what I do suggest, but there is always a plan behind it. Let's go to hole number 1. We kick off with hole number 1, and we're going to play on the right hand side. And you can see that we're not even close to being maximum distance of our club, rather closer to the minimum distance there. So I changed to a mauling ball so we don't have to spend any of our better balls that we do have. 1 bar of side spin to the right, 3.5 bar of top spin, and my only focus here is to somewhat have the ball guidelines direction to be into the center of the second fairway pad. Adjustment is going to be maximum distance plus 10. Even though we're not in maximum distance, we shall still use maximum as our club distance adjustment. Perfect ball, and you will notice that the first bounce is going to be where we aimed, on the fairway over to the fairway pad, and it will roll down. And here, the further we roll on this pad, the better it's going to be for the second shot, because that will take away the bunker that you can see there on the left from play. But, you know, even if we are where we are nowhere close to the bunker. That is just something to have in mind. 1 bar of backspin, and the problem we do have here, which I often come to when we play from front tee, is that the backbone does not give us a good ball guideline. Those of you playing with the Grizzly level 7 or better has a massive advantage in this situation, as you have a better ball guideline. Because the problem for me here now is that I'm trying to aim directly at the pin, but if there is a little, slope left or a little slope right by the pin, I'm not gonna see that because I don't have a fully developed ball guideline, which is a big reason why me, combined with many others, do miss shots like this from time to time, because we're so dependent on that ball guideline. So I would rather take, obviously, a better Grizzly here than what I do have with the backbone. But we're coming with a good speed, and if we would have just aimed correctly, we would have been having a nice drop here to start with on hole number 1. 10% elevation for the second shot as well, and you base the club distance at where you are in terms of checking where minimum distance are and then where maximum distance are, and then you make a decision. Hole number 2, and we are going to play with a power 3 ball and our driver that gives us the most power possible. 3 bars of top spin and 2 bars of side spin to the right. You can see that I'm leaving the yellow ring just by the rough to the right, but most importantly, the second bounce to be approximately 1 ring into the second rough. Adjustment is going to be maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment, because we're playing slightly downhill and the ball will be affected a little bit more by the wind. Half a ball of curl to the right, and that means that you have half of the ball to the right outside the adjustment range to the right. That is what I mean with half a ball. 315 yards, and from here we are just going to transport this ball to the green or to the fringe. Why do I say that, and why don't I say, oh, play like this to get the albatross? Because this albatross is going to be extremely difficult, and I would say that the albatrosses that will be made from this area here is going to be made mainly based by luck. Because here we do need to use overpower, we need to use a club that gives us as much power possible as well, and we're gonna have to bounce over a big bunker and bounce and bounce, and sure, it gets to zoom in, but we're nowhere close to get that ball to stop in time for being, close to the pin or getting that ball in the hole. So on hole number 2, my goal is to get an eagle, and having an albatross here will be such a massive bonus that I'm going to be extremely happy, but nothing that I do expect. There will be way more birdies on this one, because the easiest part here is to mess up the drive. So be careful with the drive, lay up short, and don't try to do anything special. Just lay up, take the eagle, and go to hole number 3. For hole number 3, we'll see 2 options. One where we are just going to bounce our ball down towards the pin, and one where we're going to go for a rough bump. 1 bar of backspin, 2 bars of side spin to the right, when we are now going to bounce towards the pin here. The problem we do have here is that I aim too far up. I need to back up a little bit, because you could see that the ball guideline went pretty hefty through the hole, and if we do have it like that, we will come in hot as the green in itself slopes massively downhill. So this ball is going to come in hot, and it is in somewhat a bad ball guideline position from myself. Medium distance plus 10, which is 1-1 here. Power 3 ball settings is what we're looking at here. So 1-1 is what we're using. We're using a quasar ball or any other ball that gives us the 2 bars of side spin that is needed for this type of shot. Sniper is the club, as it gives us a good ball guideline. So let's take a look at the rough bump, which in my opinion is going to be the best option to play. So for the rough bump, we are going to add spin first, which is a 3.5 bar top spin and 3 bars of side spin to the right. Now, I'm looking for the ball guideline to go to the hole. Very important, as we otherwise will fall short. Once finding the position that we're looking for, I will be adjusting for 1-1, which means that I'm going to adjust 3.5 rings for 3.5 miles per hour. I'm using the katana ball to give myself the 3 bars of side spin to the right, and also, you know, I don't want to use anything better than a power 3 ball, so the katana is a perfect option in this case. We get down the green, and it falls down towards the pin. We are just a little bit over adjustment, but I do think that is due to our pull angle that we're using here. I had a very bad 1159, and for those of you that are wondering what I'm talking about, we're not gonna go into that in here. I just wanted to address the fact that when you're taking the shot with a rough bump, make sure that your wind arrow is pointing completely at north to get the correct pull when you are adjusting your rings. Then you will have a very good chance making a hole-in-one on the rough bump, which I feel is once again the best out of the 2 opportunities. For hole number 4, we're going to play on the right hand side, and here we don't need to play with a fancy ball. We can just play with a Marlin ball and save all the other balls that we do have in stock. So we use all the topspin that we can, and if you do have more than 4.5 bar topspin, use it. We do want to reach as far down the fairway possible, and that little left spin as well that we're using, that 1 bar, use that as well. Adjustment is going to be maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment. Bounce on that sloped fairway over to the second fairway, and here is where the extra topspin would be very useful for us to reach even further down the fairway. But even if we do get to 310 yards, which is not that far, but still far enough to play with a short iron towards the pin. This is a very good chance to make a drop. Very important that you check where maximum distance is, and to be even more clear, you should have been checking where the minimum distance would be as well. If you do have a bad ball guideline, which I do have on the Thorn level 5, I would recommend to try to have the, what will it be, the third bounce to go into the hole in headwind. If we do have a crosswind or tailwind, leave the ball guideline, the tip of it, a little bit shorter of pin. But if you do play with a club like the Thorn level 8 or better, which there is, I know there is many players that do have those type of clubs and play from front tee, then you have the ball guideline to follow, and obviously you shall follow that ball guideline. No elevation for this shot, and I play this one in between medium and maximum distance, which is 75% of my club. So you're going to be somewhere between medium and maximum distance every time if making the drive in a correct way. So a Marlin ball to not, you know, care really about the other more fancy ball. So play with a Marlin ball, and then you have a really good chance making an eagle on hole number 4. For hole number 5, we're going to play a very tough par 3, not in the sense of getting the birdie, but for getting an hole-in-one. Here I want us to start by having the ball guideline pointing towards the pin with our long iron, and then using the top of the yellow ring to be by the rough. 1.5 bar backspin, half a bar of side spin to the right. And you can see that I deliberately are aiming a little bit to the right of the pin. Medium distance with a 10% over adjustment is what I'm using here, which gives me 2.6 rings with a backbone level 8. Looking at the result here, we want to have a little bit more side spin to, to get this ball to drop. But you see that on the green, there is a mound there. If we are not hitting that in the absolute perfect spot, it will either have the ball roll left or roll right, and that is what makes this shot way tougher than what it looks to be. So medium distance plus 10, navigator ball, and I'm using a backbone. If I do have a Grizzly level 7 or better, that's the club I will be using due to a better ball guideline. For hole number 6, we are going to play an aggressive drive, and we will be using the driver that gives us the most power possible. No spin will be applied, as we're just looking to position ourselves just before the top right bunker. So you can see there that I did only stretch up to max. I didn't even adjust because we have so much room on that fairway to play at. So 3 rings of overpower, you can go with max if you want to, but be careful, especially in direct tailwind, that you don't go too far, because if you do roll into the bunker, you will have a problem reaching for the green in 2. If you do have a headwind in any kind, you should be going with absolute max overpower, no matter what club you're having. Power 3 ball is suggested. You will be okay with a power 2 ball if you do have tailwind, but once again, in headwind, power 3 ball is going to be an absolute must. Now, we are going to play with our sniper here, and it's better to play with our sniper than to play with a long iron. Why? It's because the sniper will have a better ball guideline and therefore a much easier time to get close, or in some cases actually drop for an albatross. Add backspin to leave the ball guideline at the hole. Here, we do forget about one thing though, is that when we do have tailwind, doesn't matter how little tailwind we have, but when we have a little tailwind, the ball will have a much greater speed towards the pin. So when the ball hits the ground, it will have a longer first bounce and then a longer second bounce, which means that we will come in a little bit too hot, and that you will see here in this example. So what to do then? Leave the ball guideline just slightly short of pin in tailwind. Leave the ball guideline slightly long, or like through the hole and pin in headwind. In crosswind, you leave the ball guideline at the hole. We're using 10% elevation for the second shot, and we are trying to use the true distance, which means that you're going to check where minimum distance are and then what maximum distance are, and then base your adjustment of that. So I would call this a decent chance for an albatross, but it's not that I'm expecting an albatross to drop every single time. Super tough par 3 to end up with the par 3s with, and I'm going to play with a Marlin ball here, as my goal here honestly is to get, obviously I want to have an hole-in-one, but I want to lock in the birdie, and I want to lock in the birdie in the cheapest way possible, and the cheapest way possible is to use a ball that doesn't cost you that much, and that is the case why we're using a Marlin. 1.5 bar backspin, ball guidelines pointing to the hole, and again, I talk about that a lot, as we do not have a good ball guideline with the backbone. Then it's going to be much more difficult to get this ball to drop. Using a Grizzly level 7 or better, it's going to give you a massive advantage, as you can then actually aim for the pin and knowing that you're aiming for the pin. Maximum distance with a 35% over adjustment, and we are burning the left edge, which, is good. We have a tap-in putt, but in the end, a better ball guideline would be super duper helpful in this shot, because this is a tough hole, and if you are not adjusting for the elevation correctly, then you will drop down into the bunker before you hit the fairway. For hole number 8, here we're going to use the ball that suits the wind angle, which means that if we do have a headwind, we're going to play with a Titan ball, because we're going to have to use overpower, and we want to use as little amount of overpower possible, because obviously using more overpower is going to be tougher to hit perfect. If we do have a crosswind, we could play with a power 3 ball and play with no overpower, or we could in that case play with a power 2 or a power 1 ball, but we will have to use overpower. In a tailwind, we can use a power 1 ball without any type of problem, and we will be able to play without overpower there as well. You can see how close to the green we are getting without pushing this drive the hardest we can. So if we would be going with max overpower there and hit perfect, we would have been on green. But then picture yourself with a crosswind or a tailwind where we don't have a compressed ball guideline as we do have in headwind. Will we be able to reach the green in one? If so, yes, absolutely. And that is what you're going to try to do. Because finding ourselves in a situation like this, where we do have a pretty long wedge towards the pin, is not going to be easy. Here we do in somewhat rely on having a very good ball guideline with the Firefly, but if I would be having a worse wedge with a worse ball guideline, this would have been an extremely tough shot to manage. Then I would rather have to have a short iron towards the pin than a wedge, because the wedge plays massively different than a short iron does. But obviously, if we do push the drive and we get to green, we have a pot, and then that eagle is going to be extremely simple to manage. So that is, in the end, my conclusion of this hole. This eagle is going to be pretty simple managed if we do choose the correct ball, and also club for that matter, from the start. So that is your main focus. Pick a club with as much power possible. Number 2, pick a ball that suits the wind angle to get, either, power 1, power 2, power 3, and in some cases maybe a power 5 would even be more beneficial if you have that possibility. But, the green is a big possibility. Otherwise, a layup and a short wedge or a short iron towards the pin is still going to be a good opportunity to get an eagle on hole number 8. For hole number 9, we shall, regardless of what wind direction we are going to have, use a power 3 ball and go straight down the fairway. And the reason we're going to do that, even though it will be a decent amount of overpower in headwind, is that the chance for an albatross is going to be much greater from this angle than it would be if you're going to have to lay up on the right. Because the problem laying up to the right is that you're going to need a lot of distance for the second shot, even though you make a good drive. Here we can have a bad great left or a bad great right. We'll still be in the area of reaching for the rough bump. And yes, I love the rough bumps, and I will continue to love them, as they give such an amazing time when it comes to trying to get drops that we might not normally would have been getting if we would be playing just a normal shot. Here I'm using a little bit of topspin, making sure that the ball guideline goes through the hole, especially when we do have headwind. And if I would be having crosswind, I would be having the ball guideline to the hole, and if it would be in tailwind, I would leave the ball guideline just slightly short of hole. Minus 10% elevation means that we're playing uphill, and that in itself means that the ball will be less affected by the wind than normal. And that is very important when it comes to elevation, that when we play uphill, once again, the wind will affect the ball less, and therefore we need less adjust. If we do play downhill, the ball will be affected more, and we need more adjust. Kind of logic when talking about it like that, but it's not that easy to always utilize that in the best of the time. So have in mind, 10% downhill for the drive, max distance. Second shot, minus 10% uphill, and we're playing it through distance, and in this case it was medium distance, and there is where you normally will be at, somewhere between medium and maximum distance of your club. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching this playthrough with variable wins for Rookie Division and the Savannah Tournament here in Golf Clash the Game. Before we end up, make sure that you do hit the thumbs up button. Also, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. The ultimate tournament guides you can find for Pro, Expert and Master on patreon.com/golfclashtommy, link directly in the description down below. Video sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Once again, thank you for watching and good luck in the Savannah Tournament.